Hey guys, Shay here from Metra Electronics. Today I got my hands on a 2024 Jeep Wrangler JL, and we're going to take you through start to finish of our brand new sound package in collaboration with Vive Electronics. So stick around, it's time to install the brand new JP-PPKT-1 on a non-amplified stock radio on this 2024 Jeep JL. First, we start off by disconnecting the negative battery terminal using a 10mm socket wrench. Now we begin with the dash speakers. Using a panel tool, remove the factory grill. Now remove the two screws securing the speaker. Using a pick tool, disconnect the speaker harness. Follow the same procedure for the passenger side. Now to remove the lower dash. To remove the lower dash, to install the JP-1014 speaker pods, we start by removing the top dash. Using a pick tool, remove the insert covering the screws in the tray above the radio. Remove the 4 screws, and then, using a panel tool, pry the pocket up and remove. Remove the screws holding the front trim. Remove the trim by pulling it towards you and it will unsnap. Next, we need to remove the screws behind the handle on the passenger side of the vehicle. There is a panel on the back side of the handle. Use a pick tool to remove the panel and then remove the 3 screws. Now, remove the side panel and remove the visible screws at the top. This will free the trim. With those screws removed, use a panel tool to pull the trim from the handle, undo the harness from the AC controls and from the push to start button, and remove. Remove the 2 8mm bolts and other screws to then remove the handle. Now to remove the glove box. Push up on the tab in the center of the opening and let the box open downward. Remove the dampener on the left side of the box and lift up on the glove box to remove. Now to remove the radio display. Remove the 5 screws on the top of the radio across to the gauge cluster. Then pull the display forward and unclip from the dash. Remove the connections from the back of the display. Remove the panel on the driver's side and remove the visible screws. Remove the lower dash panel below the steering column. Remove the 2 screws on the lower shroud around the steering column. Remove the screws behind the light control, then pull the panel and separate the upper and lower panels, and put them aside to install the JP-1020 later. On the passenger side, remove the screws behind the side panel and remove the 2 screws below the glove box. Pull the panel out and put the panel aside to install the JP-1020. Now let's remove the factory speaker pods. On the driver's side, remove the 3 screws securing the pod in place. Remove the 2 8mm bolts on the lower support brace to make the pod removal easier. Remove the pod and disconnect the pod harness and the harnesses attached to the module attached to the pod on the driver's side. On the passenger side, remove the 3 screws securing the pod and disconnect the pod and remove. Now let's set up the JP-1014 speaker pods. Starting with the driver's side, remove the control module from the factory pod and install on the new JP-1014 with the same factory screws. Remove the 3 screws securing the factory speaker into the pod. Remove and disconnect the factory speaker. Remove the grommet from the factory pod and install it into the JP-1014. Now, follow the same procedure for the passenger side pod. To prepare the pod, remove the tabs to allow the installation of the speakers. And use the included speaker harness to connect the new speaker and secure the speaker into the pod. Follow the same procedure for the other pod. Now install our new pods back into the Jeep. Connect the pod to the harness and secure the pod back in place with the 3 screws removed previously. On the driver's side, connect the harnesses to the pod and the 2 harnesses to the control module on the back of the pod. Move the pod in place and secure with the 3 screws you removed previously. Reinstall the 2 8mm bolts on the lower bracket. We will install the panels back after installing the JP-1020s. Now let's cut the lower dash and install the JP-1020 speaker grill kit. After installing the templates on the dash panels, it's time to cut. Using an oscillating saw, cut the areas marked out by the templates. I'm starting with the driver's side panel. Now onto the passenger side. After cutting the template, we need to drill out the points for the guide pins and the mounting points for the mounting plate. Then, we remove the templates and clean up the cut by removing the plastic from our dash panel. Now, using Unibit, enlarge the holes to the proper size to allow the mounting points to fit into the dash panel. Once the finding plate fits, we can attach the grills. Now follow the same procedure for the passenger side. Now to start on our amp install, we need to remove the seats. Using a T50 Torx, remove the 4 seat bolts. Tilt the seat back and disconnect the safety harnesses.
What's up?
Remove the headrests and remove the seat from the vehicle. Use the buddy system to make it easier. Under the passenger seat, you'll find a grommet. Remove the grommet and put it aside for prepping the install of the amp power wire. At the battery, decide where you want to place the fuse holder and cut the lead to length. Then you can set up your fuse holder on the workbench. Setting up the fuse holder is easy. Cut the lead length from the power wire supplied. Strip the wire back so it will fit into one side of the fuse holder. Using a T25 Torx, remove the collar in the fuse holder and install the 4-gauge power wire. You can follow the same procedure for the other side of the fuse holder.
What's up?
At the battery, use a 10mm nut driver to remove one of the available nuts off the stud to install the ring terminal. I suggest cutting the terminal cover to allow easier placement onto the battery. You can then feed the power wire down the firewall towards the ground to run along the frame to the grommet location under the passenger seat. Secure the power wire along the factory wire harness running down the frame rail. Make sure to secure the power wire away from any hot areas like the exhaust headers. To prepare the grommet, using a unibit, drill out a hole to allow the 4-gauge power wire to pass through.
What's up?
Then, install the power wire through the grommet and put the grommet back in place. Now let's prepare the amps. Install the Vibe DSP amp on the amp rack. Now install the sub amp onto the amp rack. Install the power, ground, and remote wires into the sub amp, securing the wires to the amp rack. Now install the power and ground wires into the DSP amp. Okay, so this is a non-amplified system. How are we gonna get signal to this amplifier? Well, we're gonna start off with the T-harness. It's gonna go behind the radio, okay? Now, because the radio is no longer gonna see those speakers, we have to put a resistor pack on there. So that's gonna click right into the harness there. Then this harness you're gonna see kind of goes down. We're gonna snake, when we go into the install, I'll show you how we're gonna snake this down behind the glove box. Now, what's different in the amp versus non-amp? On the non-amplified, you're gonna see these pigtails. These pigtails are coming off to get to your tweeters. Now, in this non-amplified kit, you have two lines that we're actually going to run separately to each of the front dash tweeters. Now, because the DSP is going to have a separate channel for those tweeters, that's the only way that we can actually get to it. On an amplified system, it's a whole different process, but for non-amped, we have to run these separate wires to the tweeters, which are then going to go behind the dash and plug in here. And then this is going to, as we mentioned, going to go down behind the glove box and then run back to the amp. How is the amp going to get a signal? Normally it would be with RCAs, which of course we see on the amp right here. But the way that we've got this set up for you is this actually to go high level input. So where this comes off behind the radio, it's going to plug into itself right behind the dash. So you see we have all of our speaker wires there coming off of this harness. And then all the way down to the amp, instead of RCAs, we're going to go into this mini plug. And this mini plug is going to plug directly into your amplifier to give you your plug there. Now, you then also have a remote output. So we have a separate sub amp that's going to go to the driver's seat, and this will provide that remote out to that side. Now, we will be doing a set of small RCAs from the secondary output of this DSP amplifier to the sub amp, and those will be the only RCAs involved in this install, and this is only for a non-amp setup. We're going to take you through the process of how to load the Jeep-specific tune from your computer onto the Vibe DSP amp. It's very simple to do. Of course, in that kit, you got your instruction sheet. It takes you right to the website. I'm going to take you through step by step on how to load the tune from your computer to the amp. All right, so what do we need to do to get this Vibe amplifier programmed? Well, you can do it one of two ways. I'm going to show you how to do it here on the test bench by firing up the amplifier off the power supply. If not, of course, once the amp is actually installed in the vehicle, you'll be good to go because all your power connections will be set. If we're gonna do this on the test bench, first thing, no matter what, we need a USB-C cable. So that USB-C cable is gonna come plug in to the front here. If you're doing this on the test bench, you have that multi-pin connector that's going to give us a remote wire. So we're gonna plug that into there. I've already got a couple wires set up for my power and ground. So now we're gonna hook it up so that the power light fires on and then the amp turns on from the test bench. We'll also go through and show you how it looks when it's in the vehicle. So we have our USB-C cable plugged in here with our USB-A coming out. So we're gonna go ahead and take that and plug from that to that, and we'll go through the process of programming the DSP. Okay, so included in your package was a sheet with a QR code and a website to go to. That website's very important. That's your tech document. So when we load that page up, it's going to bring you to our landing page. Of course, we have other vehicle-specific kits available for GM and those vehicle-specific BMW speaker kits, but today we're talking about Jeep. So you'll see we have for amplified and non-amplified systems, okay? Within these icons, it's going to take you on a full step-by-step page. So you see along the side, everything's broken down. It talks about everything. We took the time to make sure that we had everything covered, good pictures, description, everything else. But today, since we're talking about the amp, we're going to go to the DSP setup. So what's going to happen? Well, it talks about the DSP setup. So there's two things you need to download when you're doing this. The first one is going to actually be the file for the DSP software from Vibe. Right now, they only have a Windows-based version of the software. So what's embedded in this file here is the exe file. You're going to download that. The other file you're going to download is the actual tune file. Now, this is the one that we've already taken the time to go through and do all of the steps with the microphone setup. If you've seen our DSP video, you've seen how we do that. But we have all that loaded. Of course, you kind of see, it takes you through everything we're talking about right now. So once those files are downloaded, gonna go through and unzip the exe file, install that program onto your computer. Your download file for the tune, you want to save that to a location that you know where to find it, usually your downloads folder or maybe your desktop, and then you go through the steps. So what are the steps? Well, we have the amplifier set up on the test bench today. So if the amplifier is already installed in your vehicle, you're going to basically need to access that USB-C cable port on the amplifier. Once you do that, so I've already got the software loaded on this computer. So the first time you fire it up with the amp powered on, USB plugged in, I'm going to open up that Vibe DSP software. With the amp powered, you're going to connect here. You'll see it goes through and reads the device. So then we come into settings, and then you have 4 functions: save DSP, load DSP, save PC, load PC. The save DSP and load DSP would basically be files that are already loaded onto the amplifier. Now this is an unprogrammed amp, so there's nothing on it. So we're gonna actually load PC. So once again, you're gonna have downloaded that file wherever you saved it to. We're gonna go ahead and pull up the file we need here. So this is a amplified system. We can just kind of show you here. So we choose that one file, we hit open. It's gonna go through and it's gonna load everything for us in the DSP software. And you're gonna see the screen change a lot because now all the points, all the work's been done. So in this case, this is based off of a amplified system. So basically when you look at the channels, you have the different channels. So that's example channel 4, that is actually the passenger side lower dash. You can see all the cue points we've already gone through and programmed for you in the programming sequence of the DSP, programming all these on the RTA so we get that best curve. So with everything loaded in here, then we're gonna save DSP. So we've loaded the PC file onto this computer, from the computer to the amplifier. Now we're gonna hit save DSP, and it's gonna basically give us these buttons. So there are technically 6 programmable setups you could save to the DSP. We haven't gone through any of the other ones. We've mainly just done the one. So you can kind of click on the one and we can change the name of it here to where it's gonna be Jeep Tune, and then we hit save. So now that file is saved to this amplifier. Since we're doing it on the test bench, once we install it in the car, everything's all ready to go. We'll show you how we connect it with the amp that's already in the car. We'll actually read the one that's in there since something's already programmed, but that is the basic setup. Then install the 4-gauge power wire from the battery into the distribution block. Now we will install the needed wiring behind the radio. On a non-amplified system, we have to install separate speaker wires to catch the tweeters. On an amplified system, you can just use the speaker harness at the dash location. In this case, we are running wire to the dash speaker location on both sides to come behind the radio and tap into the new harness. I suggest you cable tie the new speaker harness to the factory harness to prevent pulling it out of place. Now connect the dash speaker lines to the labeled location on the new harness behind the radio. Apply a cable tie to secure the connections. Now feed the connector down the dash behind the glove box. Feed the wires to meet the connector. Then run the harness to the amp under the passenger seat. Connect the small white plug into the high-level input of the amp. Just below the center console is a ground point. Using a 10mm socket, remove the nut and install the 8-gauge ground wire from the DSP amp. Install the 8-gauge power wire from the DSP amp to the power distribution block using a T25 Torx. Route the speaker wires to the output of the amp. Cable tie the wires to the amp rack for wire management. For the sub-amp under the driver's seat, use a 10mm socket to remove the nut at the ground point by the console. Attach the 8-gauge ground wire from the sub-amp to the ground point. Plug in the 3-foot RCA into the sub-amp and route the RCA, power wire, and remote wire through the center console to the DSP amp under the passenger seat. Connect the power wire to the distribution block. Plug the orange remote wire into the matching wire at the DSP amp. Plug the RCA into the output of the DSP amp. Now, let's install the dash speakers. First, we need to prep the speaker plate adapters. I suggest attaching the adapter to a scrap piece of wood, then using a hole saw, make the cuts. Now, mount the tweeter into the plate adapter with the included hardware. To wire the tweeter, plug the 2 lines from the tweeter into the included harness with the inline filter. Cut the pair of wires before the filter, strip the wires back and attach butt connectors, and attach the 2 male connector ends. You can avoid cutting if you just want to cable tie all the extra wire into the dash. Now, with the tweeter set up, we can install them into the Jeep. Connect the leads into the speaker wires we ran earlier. Then, secure the speakers back into the dash with the 2 factory screws we removed earlier. Do the same for the other side. Now it's time for the soundbar. First, we need to remove the factory grills. Remove the 4 Allen bolts securing the grill, and then unplug the map light. Put the grill aside for later. Remove the 2 speakers and the port from the soundbar. Do the same on the other side. All right, moving on to the soundbar. So we've got our soundbar prepped. Well, now it's time to install the brand new JP-1019 soundbar speaker plate adapter. Now, what's great about this is now we took out the factory grill, right? It has the map light included. How's that look there? Well, the JP-1019 is going to give us that new mesh grill, and it has a place to put the map light. So we're simply going to transfer the plate, the map light that's there, to this piece, and it all looks seamless and integrated. Now, to get ready for this, we have to basically prep our plate, our template. So just like all of our speaker plate adapters, they are available for different speaker sizes. That's what these ears are for. So we're gonna break off these ears so we can fit our 6-inch speaker. Also on here is our tweeter plate. So we always mark a center point on our tweeter plate so that when you use the hole saw, basically what's great is, all you have to do is line up that drill bit when that center mark on the hole saw, and it's gonna be centered every time. So when all said and done, we're gonna have a mid-range and a tweeter, which are gonna be our Vibe 6.5-inch and 1-inch tweeter. In this plate, we'll do this twice so it mounts right back up in that soundbar to give us our rear stage. So now remove the tabs and drill out the hole for the tweeter on the JP-1019 plate. This will let you know what we need to trace and cut out of the soundbar. With the plates prepped, we need to install them into the soundbar and trace the cutting area. Install the ring into the soundbar with the included screws. Do the same on the other side. Mark the area that needs to be cut. I'm using a silver marker. Now remove the plate and see the marked area that needs to be cut. I recommend using oscillating saw to make the cuts. If you don't feel comfortable making the cuts with the soundbar installed in the vehicle, our detailed instructions give you step-by-step instruction on how to remove it. If remaining in the vehicle, be careful not to cut too deep. Use the saw to cut the area that you marked prior. Be sure not to cut the wiring in the soundbar. Follow the same procedure on the other side. All right, so now we're going to assemble the JP-1019. So we've done all the cutting into the soundbar. Now we got the different things. So once again, we're doing our 6-inch mid-range. We got our tweeter, and of course we've got our plates, which we've already cut the tabs out. We got the spot for the tweeter. I'll show you how we're going to transfer that map light over. But a couple things first. So in the JP-1019 kit, you are going to get this 12-inch speaker harness. Now this is, of course, only got one set of outputs. Now with the tweeter is going to come with a little pigtail on it, and it's going to come with a spool of wire. The spool of wire has an inline capacitor as a filter, and this long bunch of wire. Well, we don't need all this long bunch of wire, so what we can do is once we connect make the connections to the tweeter itself, right after that inline capacitor, kind of give it a little bit of a cut right then and there, and this is garbage. We don't need that anymore. What we're then going to do is we're going to splice off of this. We're going to cut this back. And taking our speaker adapter, we are going to, I like to twist. So I cut here, because now we're going to do is we're going to splice our tweeter in with our mid-range, so they are in parallel. And it acts as kind of a coaxial up in there in the soundbar. So I'm going to then strip back on my speaker harness, crimp that on there. So now we have the ends of the speaker harness that we cut off, and we have the ends of our tweeter. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this back here. And we've already pulled the lines back. Now on the tweeter, you'll see there is a black with a red line, and then there's a straight black. That red line is your positive, which on our speaker harness is going to be the white. So we're going to wrap those two together. And then just connecting them together, white to white, crimping that, and then our black to black, crimp that. So now we have the connections to our tweeter. This will connect to the ports on the speaker itself. And all of this will be tucked up into the soundbar, so we don't have to worry about extra cable management. So we'll do that again on this other side, and then we'll mount everything into the speaker plate. There's the speaker harness that's going to plug into the soundbar. I've got the tweeter lines right there, and this is going to go to the mid-range driver. So it's just some basic some cable management that I've done that'll go right up there in the soundbar. Now we're going to mount the speakers into the bracket. So when you're mounting these, you've got a flat side, and then you've kind of got where the stems are up. You want to put the flat side to the ceiling so that these are extending down. So we're going to put the mid-range into the opening here. We're going to find our holes that line up, and we're going to mount the screws in there. So got some screws here. Line up my holes. Get a couple started, and then we'll screw them all together, and we'll do that twice. Now with the tweeter, we have our opening cut. So the tweeter obviously slides through the top there. And then on the back side, in the kit, you've got two different types of mounts. These mounts are kind of a compression style. Once they kind of come over the tweeter, they're going to kind of latch into that frame there. You have to kind of get that pushed all the way in. They both kind of do the same thing. I prefer using these, but they're both in the kit. You do what's best for you. Now, whenever you're using these guys, just cut the ears off. Once that's in there, you see that it's going to be sitting nice and pretty. And then we have our connections there. So then from there, we of course have our, so once again, the tweeter wires are going to plug right into their harnesses. So red to red, black to black. And then, I said white's positive, black is negative. So looking at here, there's a positive, negative there. So there's your positive, there's your negative. And now it's ready to get mounted up into the soundbar. And we'll do that one more time. All right, so we've assembled our speakers into our frames. We got our wire management done there. Now we're going to take the factory map light, which is located on the factory grill, and our new JP-1019s actually have that same spot. So using a T25, we're basically going to get into these two screws here. And then that map light fits exactly into the new location. On the JP-1019, you see that it's still nice and flush there. And that's using those same screws. Put them right back into place. So you see those map lights are now mounted back in the factory into the new grills, and they look nice and factory, right? So there we are. So now we get ready to put everything into the Jeep. All right, now before we put these into the car, one last thing is you'll see in the kit, we do give you this set of foam tape. Now the foam tape is to basically go around the edge of the trim piece, because when the grills match up against it, it'll help prevent any rattling up there in the sound bar. So we're going to take a minute here and we're just going to apply the foam around the edge of the template and mounting plate to help prevent any rattle. So now, with the JP-1019 loaded and ready, we can install it into the soundbar and connect the speaker harnesses to the factory harnesses in the soundbar. Attach the loaded JP-1019 frame into the soundbar with the same screws we used previously. Attach the harness to the factory map light on the new grill. Then, attach the grill to the bracket with the 5 included screws. Now, follow the same steps on the other side for the loaded speaker plate, connect the map light, and mount the grill. Now to install the subwoofer. You can leave the sub on the floor of the cargo area or mount on the tailgate with the included hardware. In this install, we are mounting the enclosure on the tailgate. To start, remove the smaller panel of the tailgate with a panel tool. Then, remove the larger panel from the tailgate. Bring both panels over to the workbench for prepping to install the enclosure. On the larger panel, when you flip it over, you will see 2 marks that are referenced to the threaded mounts built into the Jeep tailgate. Using a unibit, drill out the 2 points to fit the spacer hardware that comes with the enclosure. Now, use a drill bit to make a pilot hole through the 2 points on the smaller panel. Then, use a unibit to make the hole large enough for the included spacers. For the wiring of the sub, start by removing the 3 tie downs on the passenger side of the cargo area. Remove the tray at the front of the cargo area. Now, pull the door seal back and install the speaker wire under the panel, leaving enough length to make it into the tailgate. Feed the other end up to the amp, with the shorter end into the factory wire loom that leads into the door. Feed the speaker wire through the door panel and mount the door panel back onto the door. Insert the spacers into the holes you made into the panel and mount the top mount to the door using the included hardware. Now mount the 2 brackets into their locations on the lower part of the door panel. Remove the pre-installed bolts from the enclosure . And slide the enclosure onto the door, lining up the mounting points on the side of the box. Secure the enclosure to the door with the bolts you just removed.
What's up?
So this is a dual voice coil subwoofer. So there's 2 negatives, there's 2 positives. We're going to put a jumper from here to here. That's going to remain on the plug, and then from the amplifier, the black wire is going to go here, the red wire is going to go there to give us a 2 ohm load on the aftermarket sub. So, after you have the wire length for the sub, run the wire up to the passenger seat location, then over to the sub amp under the driver's seat. Attach the wire to the amp and practice that wire management.
What's up?
Now it's time to connect the speakers to the amp. As you can see, the harness is labeled for each location on the amplifier. Just simply follow the label locations and install the speakers to the amp, and always add some wire management.
What's up?
Now that all the key parts are in, we can begin reassembly of the vehicle. I'm starting at the back and making my way forward. So putting the back cargo area back together. Then it's up to the radio in the front dash display. And onto our lower dash with the freshly installed JP-1020 grills. Now the upper dash with the light control. Down to the lower shroud. Over to the passenger handle. And now the AC and push to start button. Then the glove box. And now we have our new JP-1017 covers for the dash tweeters on both the driver and passenger side. Simply clip to the factory location. Reinstall the two front seats into the Jeep and make sure the feet of the amp racks are under the seat mounts and secure with the factory seat poles. You can see here how we have gone through the setup of our 4 microphones and DSP software to tune the vehicle. We took the time to do this so you can just load it onto the DSP amp. This was a screenshot of how the Jeep was tuned from the factory. Now look at that tuned curve. That's a lot better sound. More lows with the subwoofer and better quality mids and highs. That's it, guys. That's your installation on the 2024 Jeep Wrangler JL. So you saw us do the dash speakers, the pods, the subwoofer in the back, the sound bar, everything's all installed. And of course, we got everything tuned. So after you saw that video that Joe and I did talking about how we tune our DSP. So we've actually gone through and pulled up each individual speaker. So there's your tweeters, there's your dash pods, there's your sound bar, and your subwoofer. Everything's done, all pre-tuned for you right there in the package, ready for you to plug it in your amplifier, program it, and hit the road. So you know what, guys? I think I'm gonna do just that. Enjoy your Vibe DSP audio system. If you have any questions, Metra tech support is always available. Check out all of our other cool products available for these Jeeps, especially some of that lighting stuff, on metraonline.com. It's time to hit the road.